Today, we're going to teach you how to avoid blue toenails. You know, that thing that can happen if you get stepped on during a match or you wear boots that are simply too small, where it feels like the nail is starting to feel a little pressurized, then it starts to hurt, your nail might turn blue or black, and it can all get really disgusting. Now in turn, it all might lead to the nail falling off, or you can get a pretty disgusting injury. So today we're going to take a look at what you can do to avoid getting those blue nails, and of course also what you can try and do if you're unlucky and get one anyway. Now, I am admittedly no foot doctor, but blue toenails usually occur when the blood vessels underneath the nails are damaged and the blood then flows out in the cavity underneath the nail, which obviously it's not supposed to be there, so it's going to generate some sort of pressure, which in turn can lead to the nail starting to hurt. And it's also the blood underneath the nail that turns the nail blue or potentially even black. Now, this would probably be the point in time where I would show you some of the web TV teams' blue nails, because we kind of all have them, we're football players, but it's all a little bit disgusting, so we're not going to do that. Now, blue nails can happen in two different ways. There's acute trauma, which is something that happens when you drop something really heavy on your shoes or if you get stepped on. And then there's repetitive trauma, which happens if you keep banging your toenails against the toe box of the boot, which is something that most football players experience at some point in their career. But what can you do to avoid this jazz then? As I mentioned, one of the most common reasons for getting blue toenails is this repetitive trauma, when you keep banging the tip of your toes against the inside of the toe box of the boot. And thus you just get the blue nails, boom, 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 shake the room. That's how it happens. And one of the ways to avoid that, and it might sound a little bit daft, but is actually to clip your toenails. Make sure they're always nicely cut in a rounded shape, because that way the nails won't be protruding over the foot, and that means that there's less risk of the nail constantly banging against the inside of the boot, sending shocks all the way down the nail into the nail bed, which is really unhealthy for the nail itself. So get out those clippers and cut the nails. Secondly, it's important to get the right size in your boots, because if your boots are even just a little bit too small, either lengthwise or that the toe box is too low, well then you risk constantly banging your toes against the inside of your boot, especially when you're twisting, turning, or basically changing direction on the spot, because your toes will be in contact with the toe box at all times, and in turn that leads to blue nails, and well, the damage is already done. And actually, getting your right size in your football boots isn't as difficult as it may sound. I've made a video on how to do it, which you can go watch by clicking the eye in the corner of your screen. But even if your boots are the right size, you can actually still experience banging your toes against the inside of the boot if your socks are too slippery. I know, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong here, but if you are one of those guys that experiences getting blue nails a lot, you should do yourself a favor. Go get some grip socks that are made with these here sticky elements both on the inside and the outside of the sock to give you more grip and prevent your foot from moving inside the boot. Now, these here socks might not prevent blue nails altogether, but they can prevent at least a few occasions of messing up your nails, simply because your foot won't move that much and give you that repetitive trauma. And if you want to know what the best grip sock to get on the market is, well, I'm making a top 5 list very soon, so stay tuned for that. Finally, if nothing else helps, you can at least take some of the impact off of your toes by using a padded tape. Now, I use this here Mercure tape, which is a padded foam tape that gives you a little bit of extra dampening from every impact where your toes bang against the toe box. And if you want to use some of the same tape as me, you can go and grab a roll for yourself on unisportstore.com right over there. Now, of course, the tape here is not 100% fail-safe. You can still get blue nails, but my nails still felt better when I wore this compared to when I didn't. And I suffer from this stuff a lot. But if you've already been unlucky and you're now the proud owner of a few blue nails, there's actually still some stuff you can do for a bit of damage control. And the first thing is to make sure that the nail stays on your toe. In other words, don't go peel off the nail as soon as you can, because not only will it hurt like hell taking it off immediately, it's also really bad for the fragile skin underneath. So what you should do is that you immediately tape it off and then you keep it on for as long as you possibly can until the nail won't stay on your toe for a second longer. But in the end, your nail will fall off, and when it does, make sure that you keep the virgin skin underneath, the very fragile skin underneath your nail, as dry as possible in order to avoid infections and fungal growth and all that jazz. So basically, you should try and help your feet with the recovery and the nail regrowing aspect by keeping it as dry as possible. So try drying it off with a paper towel after you've showered, etc, 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 and hopefully it can speed up the recovery process and grow back a fine nail as quickly as possible. But if the pain is too unreal and you can't take a second longer off the pressure from the blood underneath the nails, you can always relieve a bit of the pressure by drilling a hole in the nail itself. And while every podiatrist and foot doctor out there will tell you that you shouldn't do it yourself and you should only get trained, experienced people to do it, and I would probably tell you the same, well, you can actually do it by yourself. You can take a tip of a paperclip, fold the whole thing out, and then heat it up with a lighter and basically burn a hole in your nail. Now, heads up, this hurts like and the risk of infections, well, it goes through the roof. So while I wouldn't recommend you do it, well, you technically can. So there you go, my friends, a few good tips and some advice on how you can avoid and potentially also treat blue toenails. And if you guys have any other good tips or suggestions on how to avoid this stupid jazz, well, as always, you should let us know in the comment section right down below, because sharing is caring. Now, if you guys need new boots or grip socks or even tape, you should look no further than your friendly neighborhood boot pusher Unisport by clicking the link right over there. If you want, you can also go subscribe to our channel with the notifications on to see even more videos on how you can up your gear game. And finally, if you want to know how to avoid and treat blisters, I've also made a video about that you can watch by clicking the video right down here. And with that said, guys, I'm gonna sign off. Cheerio.